Hello everybody, I'm down here live in front of the courthouse and the jail. You can see right here behind me the federal courthouse and the jail. I'm out here in the park. We're in recess just shortly before we go back into court. Give you just a quick update. I have just a few moments here. I don't have a long time. I have to be back in about 10 minutes. So we went through a couple more witnesses today. We finished up with Greg Britzing. He's the head of FBI, or at least former head of FBI here in Oregon. He just recently retired after almost 22 years with the FBI. We had him on the stand, finished up with him this morning, and then we had Andy Dunbar came up next. He's a rancher that's borders the refuge out there in Burns, Oregon. He testified again. He also testified in the previous trial. He was one of the locals out there that claims that he's not an informant, but he did collect $2,000, and his son also collected $2,000 to give information or to work with the FBI against the protesters out there in Burns, Oregon, back in January of 2016. We next and Andy Dunbar, he just went on and on how fearful he was and his family and how unsafe he felt. He wanted everybody to know that he didn't like any of them that came out there and stood and protested at the refuge. The next one that was on the stand here today was Chad Cargis. He's the refuge manager. If I remember right, he's lived in Burns about 17 years. He manages about 16 employees out there at the refuge. He also testified in the last trial, and so he's been up on the stand for about an hour, and we're going to finish up with him after lunch. And then we're calling up the defense, the prosecution's actually calling up Butch Eaton. He's the former fire chief from out there in Burns. I seen him just at break, so I got to shake Butch's hand and give him a hug real quick. And he's got to wait there at the courthouse. He couldn't talk, but he said he would talk to us right after court. So I'll try to have an update possibly with him after his testimony today. But I was not able to interview him or talk to him prior here. So we might have a couple updates. As soon as he testifies, I like to be there in the courtroom when he testifies, and then I would like to rush out of the courtroom, and we will try to interview him before he gets out of town. Britzinger, I don't know if it was 25 times. I see Ashley Jones is asking about him, but 25, 30 times or more. He could not recall, he could not remember. I'll go back to my notes a little bit on that. He just went over and over again that things that the government was asking him, and precisely the defense team, that he could not recall anything. He did not take notes. He delegated all this to other FBI agents. And it seems convenient that the government would call him as a witness when he doesn't really know anything. He couldn't give us any information. The only information he would really tell us is that Mark McConnell was an informant. He didn't know how much he got paid, but he knew that Mark McConnell gave all the information on the vehicles that left the refuge to the meeting to John Day that afternoon, and that he identified the different ones that were in the vehicles that were heading out there. He mentioned that the first vehicle had Lavoy Finicum in it, Ryan Bundy, Ryan Payne, and Shauna Cox, and another young lady that he didn't mention her name, which we know is Victoria Sharp. He mentioned that the second vehicle had Ammon Bundy in it, and then another guy named, and he kind of stumbled around, Buddha, and he couldn't come up with the Buddha's name, which the government said, would that have name been Brian Cavalier? And he said, yes, that sounds right, Brian Cavalier. And he asked if there was any other individuals in the vehicle, and he says another individual named Mark, and he kind of stumbled around with that name. The defense lawyers asked him, would that individual's last name been McConnell? And he said, yes, I just came back to me. His name is Mark McConnell. So for an FBI agent that's investigating people, investigating crimes, his story was very inconsistent. He did not remember a lot, which seems wrong to have a witness that has a lack of memory for something that's this severe, that they're prosecuting people over without a proper memory or notes of any sort. So that was kind of capping our witnesses we had so far today. I don't have a lot of time, like I said. I'll look at my notes real quick, see if a couple others. He could not. This Mr. Britzing, he didn't even know if Terry Liddell was an informant. He did not know if John Kilman was an informant. He knew no names of no informants, he said. The only one he knew for a fact that was an informant was just Mark McConnell. And for some reason, it seems like they want to out him, and they've never been afraid to bring up his name. But it was on the stand again today and yesterday both, that Mark McConnell was an informant and got paid, but they didn't know how much. This other individual, this rancher, Andy Dunbar, admitted that he and his son both got paid $2,000 apiece for their involvement in different activities that the FBI used their ranch, borrowed vehicles of theirs, set up in one of their barns a sniper position to cover the last few people, the last 4 guys at the refuge, and that was brought up on the stand today. We have not heard from Butch Eaton just yet. Butch Eaton's coming up on the stand after lunch. We'll finish up with Chad Curtis. Chad has no information. Pretty much all he is doing is identifying the buildings. He has said that his workers couldn't go to work, and he called them all off. Pretty much the same thing as before in the first trial. And so far, no valuable information that I have seen that are useful that has been brought up yet from him. The Dwayne Embers attorney brought up to Greg Britzing that wasn't it true in the first trial that you was unhappy with the decision, and the prosecution objected to that being brought up and did not want him to answer that, and it was objected to it. The judge actually overruled it and allowed and told Greg Britzing that he was to answer the question, and he said he was disappointed in the first trial. The second question Dwayne Embers' attorney asked is that why you didn't testify the first time, but you're testifying this time, that you think somebody should pay and he pay for that crime because you felt they were guilty? And he again answered yes, he did feel like it was a wrong verdict in the first trial. After the jurors were dismissed for a few minutes, about 15 minutes, the prosecutor Ethan Knight jumped up, very upset and angry, obviously, and a stronger voice than I've ever seen him act in the first trial or this trial. And he told the judge he was very upset. He thought that they had understanding that the first trial, the verdict would not be brought into this, and that he did not want the jurors to hear about the first verdict. And the judge said, well, you should have told me that when you objected. He said, well, I tried, Your Honor. She said, no, you didn't. You objected because you didn't tell me your objection. You just said you objected. And she said, that's why I overruled you. So obviously they were upset that the jurors got to hear about this first verdict, and that Greg Britzing did not testify, but he was upset with the first verdict, and he felt them guys were guilty, and he feels like justice still needs to be brought down upon these 4 defendants. So that's about all I have time for today. I will be back a couple of times a day. I feel that we have some very good information coming out from these next few witnesses. It's going to be very exciting this afternoon. I look forward to hearing Butch's testimony. Last time he testified, it was very emotional, and I feel like we're going to hear some truths that we haven't heard from him before. Again, he's the former fire chief over in Burns, Oregon, and we're about to hear from him in just the next few minutes up in the courthouse here. Look forward to giving you some more updates this afternoon. I will talk to you a little bit later. Thank you.